Everyone remembers David defeating Goliath. We remember the giant falling. We remember the victory. But almost no one talks about David's greatest secret. There was something David possessed long before he ever stepped onto the battlefield. And if you miss this secret, you'll never fully understand why David was able to stand when everyone else ran. Let's discover what made David unstoppable. Imagine the scene. The valley is filled with two armies. On one side, Israel. On the other, the Philistines. Every morning, a giant nearly 10 feet tall walks into the valley and shouts, "Choose a man to fight me." For 40 days, no one moves, not the soldiers, not the commanders, not even King Saul, the tallest man in Israel. Fear has completely taken over. Then a teenage shepherd named David arrives, not to fight, but simply to deliver food to his brothers. The moment David hears Goliath mocking God, he asks, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" Everyone else saw a giant. David saw someone challenging God's name. Why? Because David had already learned something in private that no one else had. When David is brought before King Saul, Saul immediately doubts him. "You are only a youth," Saul says. But David doesn't respond with confidence in himself. Instead, he tells Saul a story. "I was taking care of my father's sheep. When a lion came, I struck it down. When a bear attacked, I rescued the sheep." Think about that. Nobody was watching. There was no crowd, no applause, no reward, just David, the sheep, and God. His greatest victories happened in secret. This is David's hidden secret. He didn't build courage on the battlefield. He built it in the pasture. Every lonely day caring for sheep was preparing him for a public miracle. While everyone else admired soldiers, God was developing a shepherd. While others chased recognition, David pursued faithfulness. The battles with the lion and the bear weren't interruptions. They were training sessions designed by God. God often prepares his people in places nobody notices. But there is another secret that many overlook. David didn't just protect sheep. He spent countless hours in God's presence. Many of the Psalms were written by David. Imagine him sitting beneath the stars with his harp, singing praises while watching over the flock. He wasn't wasting time. He was building a relationship with God. His confidence didn't come from muscles. It came from knowing the one who created heaven and earth. That's why David could later write, "The Lord is my shepherd." Before David learned to lead people, he learned to follow the shepherd. Now notice what happens next. King Saul offers David his armor. From a human perspective, it makes perfect sense. Better protection, better equipment, better chances. But David refuses. Why? Because David knew he didn't need someone else's strength. He needed the faith God had already developed in him. Too many people spend their lives trying to wear someone else's armor. They compare themselves with others. They copy someone else's calling. They imitate another person's gifts. David teaches us something powerful. You don't need someone else's armor when you have God's purpose. Finally, David walks toward Goliath. "You come to me with a sword and with a spear, but I come to you in the name of the Lord Almighty." That was David's greatest weapon. Not the sling, not the stone, the name of the Lord. The stone simply became the instrument. God was the one who gave the victory. One smooth stone changed history because it was placed in the hands of someone who trusted God completely. Maybe you're facing your own giant today. It may not be 9 feet tall. It could be fear, anxiety, financial pressure, a broken relationship, a difficult diagnosis, or a dream that seems impossible. The world says, "Look at how big your giant is." Faith says, "Look at how great your God is." Never underestimate what God is doing during your hidden seasons. The prayers no one hears, the obedience no one notices, the quiet faithfulness that nobody applauds. Those moments are not being wasted. God is preparing you for battles you haven't even seen yet. Remember this. David's victory over Goliath didn't begin with a stone. It began with a heart that trusted God long before anyone was watching. So don't despise your pasture. Your private faithfulness may be preparing you for your greatest public victory. If this message encouraged you, share it with someone who is facing a giant today. And remember, the same God who strengthened David is still faithful to strengthen those who trust in him.